Flip, 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 Flip Weekly.
Hey, what's going on? It's Matt here from flipweekly.com. You're listening to the Flip Weekly podcast. We're back to regular scheduled programming. Last week, I graced you with a story about my childhood. Sounds sort of depressing when I say it like that, but I told you all about really how I got started on eBay. If you haven't listened to that episode, go on back, give it a listen. I talk about almost getting sued by one of the biggest companies in the world, if not the biggest company in the world. I think it might be the biggest company in the world. That was a scary time. I was making some money on eBay, and I didn't start how most people start on eBay. I started with my own product, which is crazy to think back on. But this week, we're not going to talk about the past. We're going to talk about the present. Well, I mean, in a way we are talking about the past because I'm going to talk about the past a week. I'm not going to go back to when I was 16 years old again, though. That is in the past. This week, all about thrifting. I actually hit up some garage sales on the weekend too, which I'll talk about. And I'm going to talk about what I believe thrifting is. And that's basically luck, perseverance, and good timing. That helped me out this week. But what helped me out this week the most was FOMO. Now, if you don't know what FOMO is, FOMO stands for the fear of missing out. It means when you go to a thrift store that's opposite another one, it's a tiny bit further down the road, and you chalk it up in your mind like, do I want to walk that bit extra further distance to go into that thrift store? We know it's a really small thrift store. We know that the stock doesn't turn over as much because they're not as popular, but that fear of missing out, that there's that one item in there, makes you walk like the extra 50 meters. I mean, it's not far, but it makes you walk that 50 meters just to do the rounds. And I'm so glad that I had that FOMO, because when I found this item in there, I couldn't believe it. I say that a lot, but I walked out of the thrift store without picking it up. I Google Lensed it. I looked on eBay, and I literally stopped in my tracks and went back for it. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about some sales. We're going to go over secondhand opinions from last week, and we have a new topic this week, which I think is going to be quite controversial, because when I'm writing it out, I was like, okay, this is not good. This is controversial. And I side with thrift stores, which is going to is going to be probably not the norm. I think the polling's going to be off. I'll tell you the results of last week's polls too. But I think we should get started. We should talk about what I bought this week. And why not start with the home run, the jackpot, what this newsletter/podcast is all about for this week. It's the title of the podcast. It's a crazy find. So let's talk about this item that I found that is the topic of the podcast, the main topic of the podcast. I go into this Save the Children op shop quite regularly. It's near my place. I'm usually impressed with the prices. I've been able to find a lot in there. It's where I found the $1,000 book set. Remember those spiritual books that I found? I can't remember what they were called, but they're listed up for $1,000 for like 8 books or 9 books. It's where I found like these Ice Age figures that are worth like $200. There's just a lot of nice items come in here. They don't get that much. Save the Children is a bit different than your standard Vinnies or Salvos. They don't have the charity bins that all the other op shops have. In most cases, you'll see donations left by the door. In other cases, people just walk in with them. And that's what happened with this. I actually talked to the staff about this donation, and they said it was dropped off by somebody driving like a really slick black Mercedes. I couldn't believe the item. So I jump into this thrift store, and I'm looking at all the regular places. I don't see anything, and then as I'm leaving, I see at the very bottom of a glass display cabinet this nice looking pen. And I've talked before about product packaging. If you see a pen in like a plastic sleeve, no brands, it's usually, it's nothing. It's like your standard Bic pen that you can get from Officeworks for like $1. But if the product packaging is nice, if it looks like there's been thought put into it, it might be worth looking at it. So I could see this pen. It was in like this suede 3-fold case. So picture like 3 sections. It's in the middle section on an angle. The 2 sections on the side obviously close over the top of it. And it came with its original box. And when I bent down to have a look at it, I could see a $35 price tag, and I could see the logo Mont Blanc. You know, I've never bought one of these pens before, so I don't know how to pronounce it, Mont Blanc. I'm going to go with the fancier sounding version, Mont Blanc. You know, like croissant, Mont Blanc. So I took a closer look at this pen. You know, I didn't take it out of the cabinet. I just took a photo and I thought, oh yeah, that's cool. And then I got back up off the ground, and then I walked out. And as I'm walking out, I jumped onto Google Lens and I just looked it up, and I could see comps, you know, in the $1,000 to $2,000 range. And I'm not kidding. I walk in the city, I know not to stop. I hate the people that just stop on a dime. You know, those people, you're walking down the street and they just stop in the middle as if like there aren't people behind walking, or they get to the top of an escalator and they just stop at the top. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I did that. I stopped like on the sidewalk looking at my phone, be like, no way. So I didn't believe it. And the pen had a long name, which meant I had to type it into eBay just to double check. I wanted to see if this had actually sold, if there was any available on eBay, and I needed to get the spelling right too. You know, when you're typing and you have fat fucking fingers and nothing comes up on eBay because their search is so bad. And you know, I'm trying to do all that quickly because it's getting late in the afternoon and I need to decide whether or not I'm going back for it before someone else, you know, jumps in and gets it. So I type in Mont Blanc Ingrid Bergman La Donna Special Edition. That's what it's called. I'll break that down for you in a second. But suffice to say, active listings with watches, only a few, I think there was like maybe 8 or 9, sold comps at the $1,000 range. So I'm thinking, all right, this is legit. I'm going to go back. I'm going to buy it. So I went back in. I got back down on the floor. I pulled it out and I looked it over. So we have the pen. We have the box, the case, sorry. It came with a booklet which had like a authenticity guarantee in it, and then it had the original packaging box that everything came in. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to buy this. I go to the counter and, you know, I strike up a conversation. I ask about like, oh, did this just come in? And she's like, yeah, it just came in about an hour ago. She told me that, you know, what I said earlier about the person driving the slick black Mercedes, that they also donated some jewelry. And the thrift store employee, I think it was the manager, said to me, you know, we looked this pen up, and I'm thinking like, oh, here we go. I'm about to get told that this pen is either like a fake or there's something wrong with it. And they're like, yeah, this is like a $1,500 US pen. And I'm like, wow, you know, like, yeah, this is a really nice pen. And she says to me that people around here don't know much about pens, so we put it up for $35. And I'm like, okay, you know, that's fine for me. That's fine with me. But I couldn't believe it. You know, they're saying to me that they know this is a pen worth over $1,000, but they're happy to put it on the shelf for $35 because nobody in the area knows much about pens. I mean, okay, fine, that's cool. It's a gorgeous pen. I think that somebody would have bought it for $35, even if they weren't a reseller. You know, because it's a gorgeous pen. So I bought it for $35, took it home, listed it up. Let's break down what this pen actually is, okay? So Mont Blanc, really famous pen brand. The second part of the name, the Ingrid Bergman. Now, if you're a bit older, you might recognize the name. I have to admit, I had no fucking idea who she was. And, you know, I like to think of myself as a bit of a film buff. But I've never seen those older films like Casablanca. She was in Casablanca. She won something like 3 Academy Awards. She won Tony Awards. This chick was basically like the Meryl Streep of her time, right? Like really, really famous actress. She won all the awards. And this pen, this special edition pen was made to honor her. Or it was made in a line of pens to honor women that have contributed to society, I guess. So the pen description that I found on the website, I'm going to read it out to you because I just thought this is This is really, really nice. This is just nice, you know. It says the rose gold coated fittings on the Ingrid Bergman edition La Donna. I think they've named the pen La Donna. Recapture the breathtaking passion embodied by Ingrid Bergman in classic films such as Casablanca. The cap is coated in a mother-of-pearl style lacquer, while the engraved motif underneath the lacquer is inspired by the distinctive skirts that Ingrid Bergman liked to wear. The amethyst on the clip symbolizes calmness, clarity, and tolerance, traits for which Bergman was known and loved all over the world. That's a description of the pen. If you go on the newsletter, you'll be able to see photos of it. It honestly is a gorgeous pen, you know. It has that amethyst on the clip. It has like the pearl lacquer around it, around the tip of it. Like, it has the gold coated fittings. Like, it honestly is a nice pen. And, you know, I practice writing with it, and it feels nice to write with too. I'm not too sure what else there is with the pen. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a pen, but I guess that's one of the reasons why we're able to get it for an affordable price, is because people undervalue items like this. People think, oh, it's just a pen. But we know, you know, from an earlier Flip Weekly issue where I picked up a couple of pens for $3, they sold to some bloke over in Saudi Arabia. People like this shit. Anything brand name within their certain niches, their certain categories, can sell for a lot of money. And it's just like, it's one of those things where we are so entrenched in like everything in front of us that we don't realize that there's different hobbies, there's different categories, there's different industries where there's brands that are making billions of dollars because they're the luxury brand for that category, or they're, you know, the world leader in making amazing pens, you know. And I looked on eBay, and you can buy, like, there's sold comps for Mont Blanc pens going up to like $50,000, like pens that are custom made by this company for rich cunts that are paying 50 grand to have like a pen made entirely out of gold. Like, there is literally a pen made entirely out of gold, sculpted to, like, I don't know, have they put like a fucking ink thing inside of, you know, a gold shaped pen? I don't know how it all works, but this category is, you know, not something to overlook. And I do have a regret. Like I said, the manager told me that the person donated the pen plus some jewelry, and I vaguely remember seeing jewelry in there with like handwritten note on the price tag being like 24K, like 24 karat gold. And I just overlooked it because I think I was in my own head about, you know, this fucking pen. And I'm just thinking, if they undervalued the pen like this, did they undervalue the jewelry? I don't know much about jewelry, but I came home thinking I have to go the next day and see if it's still there and look into it further. So I go back the next day, and what do you know, the shelf is cleared out. There's not there anymore. So what's the bet that there was like thousands of dollars worth of gold jewelry there, priced so low, and I've just completely missed it because I've been too focused on the pen. But I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like, this shit happens. People donate items that they're no longer interested in using because they don't see the value in it, or they don't care about it, and that's where we can go in and pick it up. And that goes back to thrifting is really about timing. It's about luck. It's like anything. You create enough opportunities for yourself, and you only need to be successful like one of those times. That's why whenever I'm out thrifting, I always think to myself, you know, it's a numbers game. If I say I'm going to go to 10 thrift stores today, I only need to be successful at one of them. So I can go to I can go to the first 7 and be like, well, I've got nothing. But, you know, the chances are, the odds start to become in my favor. I don't know if that's even fucking true, but that's how I'd like to think about it, that, you know, there's only a couple more that I need to go to where I should, just based on the odds, be able to find something to buy to flip to make some money. Now, the other thing that I realized with pens is sort of like watches. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever wanted to, or inquired or looked into buying like expensive watches, but, you know, things like Rolexes. If you're looking to buy a Rolex and you're looking on a watch exchange marketplace, like there's one called Chrono24 you can go on and buy all different sort of watches, but you can buy a Rolex without the box and without anything else, just by itself, and then say it goes for $3,000, like a really cheap fucking thing. That same one could jump up in value to like $5,000 to $7,000 if you have the box and if you have the papers. So the papers are, the servicing and the where it was bought and the certificates, that sort of shit. I've just realized now, after buying this pen, is that it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing as the watches. People pay more if you have the box, and people pay more if you have the papers. So I just thought that was interesting. The papers, when I looked into it, it had where it was purchased from. It said, this is all handwritten, by the way, within a printed out booklet. It said like the date, it said where, it said the model number. And I think it's just like a guarantee that it's authentic, and it just makes people trust that the item is real. So yeah, that was the major jackpot. Like this is $1,000 pen. This is like a massive ka-ching. And I think that pens are something you should keep an eye out for. Just remember, if it's in a plain plastic sleeve and like a factory seal plastic sleeve thing, and that's how it's bought, it's probably not worth much. But just look at how it's packaged, look for branding, look for any sort of brand names, and you might get lucky. You could find one at a garage sale or an estate sale. Just know that a lot of these pens, they can have gold on them, and there might be a marking for gold. So yeah, just keep an eye out, and just remember that you can find $1,000 pens in thrift stores in 2025. If anyone tells you otherwise, just link them straight to this. And 35 into... I didn't tell you what I was going to list it up for. I put it on eBay. I put it as the cheapest one, just because the sell-through rate isn't that great. I think there was only a couple listed, but only a couple of sales, and I don't think people are buying like $1,000, $2,000 pens that often. So I put it up for $800, and I think it should go on to sell. There's the sold comps for this pen with the box and papers are around that price. There's two sales actually. There's one for $762 and there's one for $847, and that's they're both full sets. So I think it should sell just based off that. $35 into $800 on a pen. That was that was the home run this week. That was incredible. Now this next item would probably be one of the topics of the news that are like primary topics if I didn't have that last massive home run. But I found it nestled in amongst what I call like the junk section of a Vinnie's, where they have like all that light year stuff, where they have all the stuff they've imported with, the plain brown boxes with like all the Chinese writing on them, the stuff for some reason that they're importing to sell, but nobody ever buys it. At least not when I'm there. I'm sure somebody buys that stuff, but yeah, it was nestled in there. So I saw this box, and the box had a picture of a lamp, like a genie lamp from Aladdin, and I could see the Aladdin logo on the box. The box was decent size. Picture like a console box, like a PlayStation console box. It's quite big, and yeah, it said Aladdin Musical Snow Globe on it, and it also said on a sticker on the box, plays the song A Whole New World. Now, I'm somewhat familiar with Disney. I'm sure I've seen Aladdin at one point in time, but yeah, I decided to pick up this box and have a bit closer look at it. Because of where the box was located, I thought maybe this is like a cheap knockoff. I couldn't see, any other Disney sort of insignia on the box until I turned it upside down, and I could see on the bottom that it was actually official Disney. And I thought, great. I took it to like a seat and I pulled it out. I pulled the styrofoam out, not before getting it fucking everywhere. I don't know why some of these boxes are so difficult to pull out. Like, the styrofoam that's inside, like it was a piece on top, a piece below. The lamp is obviously on the inside. So when you're putting your fingers inside to pull it out, like the styrofoam's going fucking everywhere. It's breaking off all over the place, really. Like it's going on the ground, it's going everywhere. It's like somebody with bad dandruff just scratched their head. But the lamp came out and I held it, and bloody hell, this thing was fucking heavy. It looked great. It was heavy. It was high quality. The snow globe part of it was clear. There was nothing wrong with it. I turned upside down to make sure the stuff inside, the snow was still, not working, but like there. And I turned like the wind up mechanism on the back to hear it, and nothing played at first. Then I turned it a tiny bit more, and it started to play a whole new world. It wasn't them singing like a whole new world. No, it was like the tune, just the tune. At this point in time, I'm realizing that this thing is like, it actually is quite fucking heavy. And, I got fat fucking fingers, so I could barely fit my fingers inside of the carry handle part. So my fingers are like getting cut off. Like the lamp is slowly starting to point downwards as I'm holding it up, like to take a photo, take a video. And I don't know if you've ever been to a cafe. They serve the tea and coffee in the cups with like the really small finger hole. Have you ever had those before? Like I legit I'm like pincering my fingers to try and hold this up, and it's not working. That's what it felt like. So this thing is slowly pointing down. I had to put it down. But it just shows that this is a high quality official Disney merchandise. And I was able to look it up a bit more, and apparently it wasn't from the Disney store, but it was like from Broadway. When Disney was on Broadway for Aladdin, whenever that was, this was one of the pieces of merch that you could buy. So it looks great. It plays the song. It plays A Whole New World. It would honestly be a great present. It comes with the box, like I said. Having it on display, I think, would look great. I rubbed it and made a wish, but it didn't come true. So it doesn't work like that. But I looked up comps, and the comps for it are good. I paid $15. I was honestly surprised at the price. I paid $15. There's a comp for $80 with 11 bids. However, active listings range from like 90 to 140, and that is without the box. So I'm thinking the fact that mine is in like gift worthy condition, I can ask for $199.95. I think that's a good price. That obviously includes our premium for having the box plus our Australia tax. So I think accepting a best offer of anything over $100 would be awesome. And it would be 15 into hopefully $199.95. Now I'm thinking I should play the sound for you so you can hear what it sounds like, but I really want to get styrofoam all over the fucking ground and have to vacuum. So I'll post it on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, social media. I'll post it probably when this podcast goes live. So go over to those platforms and you can hear the musical lamp sounds like. But I mean, if you've seen the movie, you should know what A Whole New World is. But if you want photos or videos, it'll be over there. But I mean, this is one of the reasons why you don't skip over those junk sections. I look in there with despair. I think, Vinny's, what are you doing? What are you doing importing all this cheap shit? But then sometimes you can find a hidden gem, a Disney musical snow globe lamp with Jasmine and Aladdin inside of it riding the magic carpet. Now, next up is a board game that I found at an independent thrift store. Board games are easy for me. I like looking in the section because a lot of things get put there that don't belong there. It's very easy to see something that is a bit different because, you have your Monopolies, you have your Twisters, you have all those shitty games. I mean, then not shitty. I played Monopoly not that long ago. I lost, but it's very easy to spot something that looks different. So I could see this box. I could see it looked old. It's called Divine Right. And on the cover of it, it has like this fantasy sort of artwork. It sort of looks like very old school Lord of the Rings, like J.R.R. Tolkien fantasy artwork. And it says a fantasy board game for 2 to 6 players, ages 12 to adult. Just the artwork alone made me think this is old. It might be worthwhile. Whenever I see fantasy, like magic, wizards, anything like that board game or sort of like game related, I'm always going to check it out because that hobby is so fucking expensive. It's in line with Warhammer, and you know how much money we've been able to make with Warhammer in the past. So it's worth a look up. Before I looked it up though, I looked on the sides. I wanted to see how old this thing was, and it said 1979. I thought, fuck, this thing's fucking old. It had a $10 price tag on it, and I wanted to see inside of it, but there was sticky tape on both ends, and I really don't like, peeling off the sticky tape in the store because I'm always going to rush. And for these old sort of games, you could peel off, artwork, and that devalues the item. And I also don't like doing it because I don't want the staff to see me potentially opening an item. I don't want them to get the wrong idea. But at the same time, I want to see what I'm buying. Like, I could open it up and it could be filled with like a jigsaw puzzle. God rest my soul if that ever fucking happens. So I'm going throughout the store. I'm looking at everything else. I intend on buying it. So, I'm picking at the sticky tape as I'm walking around, just trying to get it off. And eventually I'm at the back of the store and the sticky tapes finally come off so I can open it up. And I see inside that everything looks like neatly organized. And when it comes to this sort of stuff where an item is preserved well, like it looks like the person's taking care of it, I'm going to take a chance on it. Because as you know, if we buy something like this with multiple pieces and it's not complete, even if there's one piece missing, we have to change our titles and our descriptions from something as simple as complete to incomplete. And that, it honestly changes everything. I take a gamble on it. I think this could be worth, a bit of money. I look up the comps, and if you would have seen this if you follow Flip Weekly on Instagram. This thing comps up for close to $300 just for the game. If it's brand new, people are asking like close to $1,000 just for this game. It's a board game. Give you a tiny bit more perspective on what it is. I'll read it quickly. It just says, Divine Right combines combat, diplomacy, and role-playing into 2 to 6 hours of fast-paced action, and as each player attempts to build and hold together an alliance of kings long enough to defeat the other players and win the game. So you get pieces, you get a map. I guess you have to conquer the map. You get some dice, you get some cards. It's sort of like Monopoly, but for conquering the world. Yeah. By the way, when I describe some of the items that I buy, it's based on like 3 minutes of research, if that. All I need to know is like the basics of what it is, what it sells for, what do I need to like match up with the sold comms. Sometimes I look a bit deeper into them to see what they are, but in most cases it's such a shit explanation of what it is. It's like last week I described the DVD of cutting it. I think it was called, a hairdressing thing. And I'm like, it's a reality show, but I can't even get that right. It's not a reality show. It was a drama. They're actors. Here I am saying so confidently that it's a reality show, and the reader chimed in like, no, it's not. The fuck are you talking about, Matt? So anyway, it comps up for close to $300. And like I said, active listings going close to 1,000. Now, why is this game so expensive? What is it about this game that makes people want to spend like hundreds of dollars on it when it has been re-released in like the 2000s and you can get it cheaper? Well, the very old version, these old 1979 versions, they're created by a company called TSR. I had no idea what this company was. You may not know what it is. If you're into fantasy board games, it may sound familiar, but to us everyday folk, TSR was the company responsible for creating Dungeons and Dragons. Even if you haven't played Dungeons and Dragons, you would know the name Dungeons and Dragons. I know the name Dungeons and Dragons. Say that fucking 5 times fast. But yeah, the company TSR back in the day created it. They faced financial difficulties later on, and they were bought out by another huge company, and that company is called Wizards of the Coast. And more younger people might recognize Wizards of the Coast because they're the face behind the trading card games like Magic the Gathering and the original Pokemon cards. So this is like, it's like board game history, right? Like this is a game created in 1979. It was created a few years after the original company's inception in 1973. So the history of this game holds value, and it's sought after because these are legendary companies, right? Like they created Dungeons and Dragons. They created this board game, Divine Right. People want it in their collection just based on that history. I'm assuming, I'm just guessing. People might just like playing the fucking game and not know anything about TSR, Wizards of the Coast, or their finances back in 1979. I feel like I'm making shit up, but that's what I think. That's why I think it's so sought after. And even though like the listing's close to $700, then they're asking that amount, and it's not like they're asking for something crazy because they got people watching it. But yeah, I took it home, and this thing has so many fucking pieces. Oh my god. It has like 12 like property cards. They're not called property cards. Like, it's not Monopoly, but it's like 12 like kingdom cards. It has like 30 diplomacy cards, and then it has like 245 individual pieces, individual token things. And of course, I have to count each and every single one of these fucking things to make sure it's all complete. So I go through like the diplomacy cards, all 30 are there. To me, I'm like, okay, this is a good start. Then I go through like the kingdom cards, they're all there. I can see there's the dice. I can see there's the map, the instructions. And then I have to count out all 245 of these fucking individual pieces. I think I lose track of counting like 2 or 3 times because, people nowadays, we have like the shortest attention span. So you're counting out, you're like 45, 46, then something else happens, like an email comes in, or like your phone rings, or you get a message, and you're like, oh, I have to instantly check that because I have a fucking rotted ass brain. So you're doing all that, you're losing track of what you're doing. I'm going back and forth. I come to like 3 different conclusions, like, oh, I'm missing 1 piece, oh, I'm missing like 30 pieces. And then I'm like, no, Matt, focus. Just like put everything else aside. I'm making this sound like I'm trying to win a set in a Grand Slam. No, I'm just counting out cardboard pieces. This is not that hard, but I focus. I put all my effort into counting, right? and I count them up, and they're all there. I think, great, thank you. This game is complete. I can list it up on eBay, and I want a quick sale. So I'm looking at the sold comps, and the comps that I'm seeing that are selling are the ones that have the pieces unpunched. That means they haven't been like pushed out of the original like cardboard. They're printed out like that, they're cut out, and then they're pushed out. That's what the sold comps are looking like. Like, people are buying that. I don't have that, but I do have a complete game. So I think, all right, I'm going to chuck this up. I'm going to put it a tiny bit cheaper than the unpunched sold versions, and they were selling for around like $220, $250. I put it up for $150, and I'm hoping for a quick sale. It'll be 10 into 150. I mean, that's fucking, like, that's great. Now we're going to move over to what I sold this week. You know me, I like to keep my average sale price high. Every time I hear the ka-ching from eBay, if my phone is on loud, I want it to be a sale worth over $100. And to be honest with you, I'm doing pretty well at that right now. For the quarter, my average sale price is at $112, and for this month alone, I'm sitting at $104. However, it would be higher, but I need to tell you 2 very embarrassing sales that I had. We all know we do not start out perfect when we're thrifting. We follow bad advice. We think items are worth more than what they actually are. You'll pick things up without comping them. You won't scan them. You won't type them into eBay. You'll just see it and be like, oh, that should be worth some money. And it turns out it's not. And I had 2 sales this week. I hear the ka-ching. I get that dopamine. I get excited. I think, what's sold? Let's hope it's like $1,000 item. and it happened twice, and they were not. They were really, really bad sales. Both of them were from 2023. So like towards the end of 2023, I guess, when I first started to, try and do this. And I didn't set up postage right. So let me just tell you what they were. One was, both were DVDs. The first one was a DVD called My Friends Tigger, Pooh and a Musical 2. It's a single DVD. It looks like some sort of 3D animated Winnie the Pooh musical movie. And the other one was Rugrats Season 9. I thought Rugrats might have done okay, but the Musical sold for $12.95, so $13, and Rugrats sold for 15. And the thing that's most embarrassing is I didn't set up my postage right, so both of them were going as parcels. And a parcel minimum cost for somebody like me is like $10, if not more. And I'm like buying the bags from Australia Post. If if you're selling a lot, you can buy Australia Post bags and boxes and shit like that in bulk and save some money. And that they say this to me every single time I go there, but I'm just not that organized to do that. So I pay the rates that are on the counter, and I think I lost money on both of these sales. I basically paid money to ship these off. So bloody Rugrats and Winnie the Pooh dragging down my average sale price, wasting my time. Another reason why I need to cull some stuff from years back, because the things that I'm buying now, they're out the door so quickly that I shouldn't have any sort of storage. I shouldn't be storing items. I go through them so quick that I just need like a tiny storage container, and that's it. But I'm embarrassed about those, but that's not the only sales that we had this week. Thank God. Thank fuck. We had a sale of an old school Walkman. Now, you'll know that if you read the newsletter, you'll know that I had $1,000 Sony Walkman up for sale, brand new, factory sealed. That isn't the one that sold. The one that sold was something I picked up, I think, what is it, May? It's May now. I think I picked it up in March, towards the end of March. I paid $25, and it was a CD Walkman inside the box. The Lifeline thrift store priced it up at $25, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, this is going to be at least $100, and it's gone on to sell for $150. Really happy about that sale. I'm sad to see it go. Me and my fucking media players, I really shouldn't collect them, but I enjoyed having it on the shelf. And you'll see these at garage sales. They won't come up as much in thrift stores, but there's something that people don't really value anymore. We've moved on to iPhones, and I mean that's really all that people listen to music on in public now, right? Like iPhones or whatever their smartphone is. People don't have these. People don't have physical media, especially CDs. People have DVD players, I guess, but people don't have CD Walkmans. So I think they're only going to go up in value from here. I probably shouldn't be selling that $1,000 sealed one. Maybe keep it for a few years to see where it goes. Is it going to jump up like Bitcoin and be worth fucking $100,000 in a few years' time? And I wish that I kept them all. No, probably not. But yeah, if you find them out in the wild, pick them up, and that goes for any sort of portable media player, portable cassette player, iPods, anything like that. Especially if they're factory sealed, you want to be snapping those up. But even not, you can buy iPods from garage sales, and people don't value them, like I said, and you can sell them because there's a huge collector's market. People actually customize the cases. You can pull them apart and put on different cases for it. There's a huge collector's market for that. It's like a hobbyist sort of thing to do, and you want to be buying those. Not for too much money. You don't want to be going overboard, but huge market. And like I said, the sealed ones, the factory sealed ones, if they're iPods, anything Apple, man, they're honestly going up in value. I bought so many sealed iPods maybe a year or two ago, and I could sell one of them right now and recoup all of the money that I spent on them. And one of my buddies that runs a auction company in the States, I've mentioned him before. His name's Mark, and he runs LCG Auctions, constantly selling, sealed Apple iPhones for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think there's a current auction right now. If you want to go to lcgauctions.com, check out the current auction. It's live, and you'll see, first release iPhone, probably with a ton of bids. It will sell for close to $100,000, and I mean, check your drawers if you got one of them. These have to be factory sealed, by the way, not just iPhones. Okay, factory sealed. But yeah, same with iPods. keep them for a few years. You might be able to auction them off for a bit of money. And yeah, there's a little financial tip for you. You're welcome. But anyway, yeah, those embarrassing DVDs brought down the average sale price. The Sony Walkman brought it back up again. And then we had another sale, which was a DVD VCR combo. Nothing special about it. The only thing that I can mention is I sent it off to the first customer. They couldn't get it to work. They sent it back. I tested it. Everything was fine. I resold it. But I was doing customer support. I felt like I was like, had some sort of 9-to-5 job working as customer support, because this lady was trying to get it to work, and it wasn't working for her. I tested it before, and at first she was like, the DVD is working, but the VHS isn't. And I'm trying to go through the motions of like, is it even fucking turned on? And then it was like, oh, now the DVD isn't working. And I it's one of those things where you're like, can you get someone else to try? Like, how do you politely say to them, is there somebody a bit younger around? Not to be ageist. Some people can, the older you get, you have trouble with younger technology. Hand me a I don't know, whatever's out at the moment, and I'm sure I'll be squinting my eyes trying to figure out how the fuck it works. But yeah, she sent it back. I only paid $20 for this unit. It sold for $152. The guy messaged me before he bought it, and it was like, can you send me through like a VCR, like a VHS with it when you send it? And I'm like, oh, sort of got not a red flag warning, but I was thinking like, oh, what's this guy want to do? Is he going to claim that it's not working? And I was like, I sent him a message back saying, I can test it right now. I can send you through photos and like basically like proof of life. Do you want me to hold up a fucking newspaper with today's date? And he was like, no. I just want to see, I just want to watch things like how I used to watch them. I was like, oh, that's cute. That's cute. You're not trying to scare me, or you're not trying to like get a free combo unit. You want some nostalgia. And I was like, you know what? I have a couple of VHS laying around that I haven't listed or aren't using. I was like, what's your favorite genre? I'll send one through to you. And he was like, oh, anything. So I had this factory sealed copy of Apocalypse Now. So I was like, you know what, I'll chuck this in. This guy seems nice. If he fucking claims this doesn't work with a brand new VHS and a combo unit that's been tested and sent multiple times, when I get this back, I swear to God, I'm going to throw it off my fucking balcony and not deal with these things. But most of the times I've bought these combo units, they've always seemed to work. The thrift stores, they turn them on, they make sure there's power. That's usually all that they do. But some of them put in DVDs and VHS to test them out. And I remember talking to the guy at the thrift store about this unit, and he said, yeah, I put in like my Star Wars DVDs and VHS to test it out. And yeah, so when you find these out in the wild, that getting harder and harder to find, but you can find VHS players alone. I usually list them up for like $100. The combo unit's $150. They've got a remote, even more. You know this if you've been listening for a while, but yeah, they cost about $20 to ship. And yeah, that's about it. They're good little sellers, and I buy them not so much for the return on investment. I buy them because I get to I get weird enjoyment out of testing out these units and putting in VHSs. I usually put a different VHS in every time, take a photo for the customer, for the eBay listings, and it's a bit of nostalgia, there. But yeah, I listed it up and sold quickly. I don't really look at comps either. I usually do like $100, $150, whatever, and yeah, they always sell. Now the next thing was a quick 24-hour flip. There's some items that I buy and I don't put them on eBay because I think that they're going to do well on Marketplace. And I saw this grab bag in a thrift store, and it had what you usually see in a plastic grab bag. Had like some farm animals. It had like a Rubik's cube. It had those little fidget toy popper things that kids use or used to use. Had little toy cars. But what I was interested in were these little toy soldiers. I could see a couple of them in the bottom of the bag, and when I could turn the bag upside down, there was like this metallic bottom. It looked like metal, and I thought, are these metal toy figures, like little, like really, really tiny, like fucking 3 inches, 2 inches, whatever. And I could see the date, which was 1971. And old military stuff, even if they're toy figures, are usually, pretty good. So I could see the brand. The brand was Detail, which is D-E-E, Tail, made in England. And checking out comps and stuff, some of these go for like $15, $20 each. And I could see at least 2 in there. So I brought them home and I opened up the pack, and there ended up being like a whole bunch of like these die-cast metal little toy figures in there. There was those little soldiers. There was 3 of the soldiers. There was 1 tank. There was 4. There was 4 soldiers. They were a bit smaller. They were all black. And apparently they used to come in Kinder Surprises, which I thought was a bit unusual. You can see photos of this on the newsletter, flipweekly.com. And then there was also 3 helicopters, mini toy helicopters from a brand called Corgi Juniors. And one of those was a Batman Batcopter. That thing sells alone for like $25. So it was a good buy. I only paid $5. And I put them all together. I put all the die-cast stuff together. I chucked it on eBay for $50. I chucked it on not eBay, chucked it on Marketplace, and it ended up selling like within 24 hours. So that was a good return. And yeah, I just like doing those little flips on Marketplace for, sort of smallish items. Speaking of quick flips, the Divine Right board game that I talked to you about earlier, gone in less than 24 hours. Did I price it too low? Maybe, but we got a 24-hour sale. That is the board game. That's from 1979. It's made by that Dungeons and Dragons company. It's actually going off. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I'm sure I'm allowed. It's going to a place called Valhalla Studios, which I thought was like the appropriate place to send this sort of wizard fantasy mythological board game to. Fucking Valhalla Studios, wherever that is. But yeah, these old board games, if they have anything to do with like wizards or fantasy or mythological creatures, I usually look them up, and they stand out on board game shelves because they're in between Twister and all these other like shitty games that aren't worth anything. So that was good. 10 into $150 in less than 24 hours for that game. That was amazing. It is time for everybody's favorite segment. We should get some theme music for this. We should get like a jingle or like a sting for this segment. Secondhand opinions. Have someone sing that so we can roll into the segment a bit easier. But this is a segment where the concept is extremely simple. I'm going to throw up a controversial, or at least something I think is controversial, hasn't been in the past, or a spicy reselling topic, and I'm going to present my argument. It's going to be poorly thought out, very contradictory, and you're going to provide your own. You can write in, you can contribute in the poll in the newsletter, flipweekly.com. You can leave a reply, you know how it works. Last week I asked you, is showing up early to garage sales smart strategy or just plain rude? I'm going to tell you the results for that poll. I was surprised. 78% of you agreed that it's just plain rude. That means that the remainder thought that it's smart strategy. And in a way, I do agree with you. It is smart strategy to rock up to a garage sale early. I had a listener contact us to say, to give us their own anecdote. They said that, this is Jenny from Sydney. She said that, what about someone who turns up one day early for your garage sale? That happened to me in Sydney years ago. She said she does it to get the best bargains and bought something from me. So it worked for this person. This person rocked up a day early and they're able to buy something. Smart strategy, yes, but it's going to leave a mark. It's going to have a negative experience. You're being rude. Let's be real. You are being rude. And I had that in the back of my mind when I went to garage sales this weekend. I didn't want to rock up, even 10 minutes early because I didn't want to come across as being rude and being a hypocrite. Even though what I'm about to say to you for this week's topic, I might have some hypocritical views. Call me out on it. I don't care. I want to talk about a topic that I'm hoping is going to be a bit more, controversial, because 78% agreed in the last poll. The poll before that, which I thought was going to be a bit more even, was cleaning your products. But no, everyone was like, yes, clean your products. What a stupid question, Matt. This week, we have a question, and it is this. Do thrift stores have a responsibility to keep prices low? All right, let's roll up the sleeves. This one's tough, okay? Every day, I grumble, I complain, I bitch about thrift store prices. I do. You can hear it in the podcast, you can read it in the newsletter, and it's so stupid because I make good money going to them and buying items at the prices they set. So call me greedy, call me contradictory, but I watch people on social media, they rant about the rising prices in thrift stores, and they have a few different points, and I catch myself, I'm nodding along with it, I'm agreeing with them. I'm saying, yes, I get it, I really do. People have been going to thrift stores for as long as I know, expecting bargains, right? It's secondhand stuff, you expect to pay less. But here is the question, not the topic. Here is a question for you. Are the expectations of the customers the responsibility of the thrift store? Because are thrift stores out there promising, 50% off retail in their ads? Are they doing a Bunnings saying we'll beat our competitors' prices? Are they saying that we have the lowest prices? I don't think they do. I go to enough thrift stores to see their marketing. I don't see that sort of marketing. I think it's the customer who's going to the store and they have that in their mind that it's secondhand, it's going to be cheaper. It might be right? It might be right. But if the public expects low prices, does that mean that the thrift store owes them low prices? And personally, I don't think they do. And look, I would love it if thrift stores ditched Google Lens. If we had a no phone policy, but just for staff, imagine how much we would clean up. Imagine if they tore up their printed out sheets that say, if this brand shows up, keep it aside so we can price it and send it off. Imagine the money we would make. Imagine if they priced everything at a flat rate, everything $1. It would work out great, but for who? For me, right? For you. It would come, and this is what I think, it would come at the expense of the support and the advocacy and the programs that some of these thrift stores are running. They're charities. We're going to use Vinnie's as an example. And I dug into their finances. I did a bit more research. I spent a tiny bit of time. I put the tiniest bit of effort into this. And look, they deliver millions of dollars in support for everyday Australians dealing with, housing issues, homelessness, and a lot of different challenges every single year. And the way they do that is obviously by selling the stuff inside of the store, the stuff that everyday people donate. And look, it's working. We look at their finances, which is so funny. We look at their finances. We're auditing the thrift store. No, we look at their finances. Last year, they made $85 million from donations. So the stuff that people are bringing in, they're putting on the store, they're doing whatever, they made $85 million from that. And you think, okay, but they could make more. Well, it was up 8% from the year before. So what they're doing is actually working. We can argue then they're doing things wrong. We can argue that they should go for a high volume based business model, that they should accept all the donations, they should price everything low, have a huge churn of stock. But that's not the point of this week's topic. You could counter me right now by saying that thrift stores should keep their prices low simply because people can't afford retail prices. There's a cost of living crisis. People cannot afford to buy clothes off a rack from a retail store. And yes, that's completely valid. sometimes the prices in a thrift store do creep into the retail territory. You see on social media people pointing out an Anko t-shirt. This is the Kmart brand selling in a thrift store for $10 when you can buy it brand new in Kmart for $7. And that does happen. However, if someone is truly struggling, they can go to Vinnie's for help for clothing, and Vinnie's does help, because last year alone, they helped over 100,000 people with clothing assistance. And I know this is starting to sound like a Vinnie's ad, but I promise you it's not. This podcast alone should know that I bitch about them all the time. Go back and listen, you'll hear me bitch about them. But I'm just being real about what I think would actually happen if they changed their business model, if they went all in on the cheap volume-based pricing. I think you would see a switch to like the US-based system for Goodwill, where you see the fewer racks, you'd see more bins, you would see items put on the shelf like you see in Goodwill and social media, where it's like an empty shampoo bottle and it's like $3.49. Or you see, something like that, just junk priced randomly. I think the high value items would get lumped in with the junk too. I mean, it would have to, right? And who would benefit the most from that? I think people like me, the reseller. People like you, the reseller. I'm going to use an example here. I've used this example in the Flip Weekly newsletter. And say somebody donates a Nintendo 64 with 30 games. This is one of the most sought after consoles, video game consoles. It will sell instantly if you list it online for a decent price. Everyone's hunting these. It's like a holy grail at a garage sale. Hard to find, but let's say you find one at a thrift store with a volume-based price where everything's almost listed the same. So they price their games at $1 each. The console, the piece of electronics, the tech is priced at $5. So you pay $35 all up for the console and 30 games. Who do you think buys that? Do you think it's the person that's facing homelessness, that doesn't have a roof over their head? Most likely not. The person that's buying it is fucking me. I'm buying that fucking thing. I'm scooping it up and I'm flipping it on eBay. I'm going to be counting my money in 24 hours when it sells. Could it go to a single mum trying to find a Christmas gift? Okay, sure, it honestly could. But selling it for $35 to one person when it could have brought in $1,000, that to me could reduce the thrift store's ability to fund the other programs that helps more than one person. That could help 10, 15, 20. So you might be saying now, like, all right, I take back everything that you've ever bought, tell them to charge more. This is the hypocritical part, sure. But I'm paying the sticker price for obscure items mostly. And if the store believes that the price that they're selling the item to me is at, and that price will help them hit their targets, I'm okay with that. So here's where I land. Here's what I think. I don't think the thrift stores have a responsibility to keep the prices low. I really don't. I think their responsibility is to use the money that they raise from the donated goods to support the community in other ways. So what do you think? The question, just to reiterate, do thrift stores have a responsibility to keep prices low? Vote in the poll at flipweekly.com. Let me know your thoughts. You can email in at matt@flipweekly.com. That's Matt with one T. You can jump onto social media. You can go on the Flip Weekly website, contact us through the form. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And let's see if this is a bit more thought-provoking than the past few secondhand opinions. That's all I've got for you this week. Go on to social media. Right now, you'll be able to see photos and videos of everything that I bought and sold for the week. You'll be able to see me finding these items. You'll be able to see my surprise at finding $1,000 Mont Blanc pen in a thrift store. Make sure you interact with this. Leave a like and review or whatever on social media, wherever you're listening to this. I appreciate it. I appreciate you for listening. Make sure you tune in again next week. We got even more finds, I'm sure. I'm just predicting. And thanks again. This is Matt signing off. Have a great week. Enjoy garage sales. Don't be rude when you go there. And see ya.
Flip, 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 flip. Flip Weekly.